You know that feeling, right? It's the end of a long day, your brain is buzzing from a dozen different problems, and you find your mind drifting back. Not just to a game, but to a specific feeling. For me, the sleek, futuristic chime of the PSP startup is the portal back, and specifically, the intro music to the still phenomenal WipEout Pulse. This takes us back to 2007. The iPhone was just announced and the world was changing. But in our hands, we held a slice of a different future, one made of anti-gravity racing, impossible tracks, and an electronic pulse that kicked. But for those of us who cut our teeth on the original PlayStation, seeing a WipEout game this polished and this complete on a handheld felt like a miracle. It wasn't just a portable game, it was a statement. But here we are, 18 years later. In an age of 4K, 120 FPS racers, does Pulse still hold up? Or is its memory better than the reality? Today, we're not just doing a review, we're conducting a retrospective to take a closer look. I'm going to argue that WipEout Pulse isn't only a great PSP game, it represents the absolute zenith of the series, a perfect, unrepeatable fusion of technical prowess and artistic ambition that later, more powerful consoles couldn't quite recapture.
3, 2, 1, go!
Let's start with the core of any great racer, the feel, the physics, and this is where Pulse makes its first and strongest claim for the throne. If you go back to the original WipEout on PS1, it was brutal. Hitting a wall wasn't a mistake, it was a race-ending catastrophe. You'd immediately scrub all of your speed, and it felt punishing in a way that could feel unfair. Then you had WipEout Fusion on the PS2, which, love it or hate it, leaned into a more arcadey, almost on-rails feel. It lost some of that tactile connection to the track. WipEout Pulse is in the Goldilocks zone. Studio Liverpool found the perfect balance. The ships have a tangible sense of weight and inertia. You feel the mass shift as you pitch into a turn. You need to anticipate, to start your air brakes early to feather them through the corner. It's challenging, but it's a fair challenge. It respects your skill. And when you nail a perfect lap, it's not by accident. It's because you've learned the language of the track and the ship. It's the game that makes you feel like a genius. And let's talk about the mag strip. On paper, it sounds like a gimmick, right? Something out of F-Zero. But Pulse implements it with a designer's restraint. It's not just for loops. It's used to create gravity-defying track layouts that double back on themselves, sending you hurtling upside down through a cityscape or hanging you precariously over an edge. It expanded the design vocabulary without breaking the fundamental WipEout feel. It still required skill. Hitting a mag strip at the wrong angle could throw off your entire line. This was an innovation in the service of the experience, not just for spectacle's sake. Because what Studio Liverpool pulled off on the PSP's hardware is frankly staggering. The PSP was powerful for its time, but let's be real. It had a 333 MHz CPU that was capped at 222 MHz for licensed software, and a paltry 32 MB of RAM. To get a game like Pulse running at a rock-solid 60 frames per second with detailed tracks, complex ship models, and all of those particle effects required pure coding wizardry. They leveraged the console's custom graphics processors to handle the geometry transformation and lighting, freeing up the main CPU for the game's logic and that all-important physics model. Compare it to its direct competitor at the time, the Nintendo DS. There's no comparison. Pulse was a console-quality experience in your pocket. But even more impressive is comparing it to the PS2 port. That version, outsourced to another studio, ran at a choppy 30 frames per second, had inferior texture work, and was famously buggy. It proves that the original Pulse was masterfully optimized. The developers knew the PSP's architecture inside and out, and they pushed it to its extreme limits. The art direction did the heavy lifting too. The tracks aren't just technically impressive, they're stylistically coherent. They used pre-baked lighting and clever texture work to create a sense of scale and detail that the raw hardware just couldn't render in real time. This is a key point. Pulse's visuals have aged better than many games from its era because its beauty comes from its strong art direction, not just its raw polygon count. The campaign structure, known as the campaign grid, was a massive overhaul from WipEout Pure. 16 grids of events, slowly introducing you to every track through a variety of races, time trials, speed laps, and the brilliant zone mode. Yes, it can feel like it's making you do your homework before the fun part, and for adults with limited time available for gaming, the pacing can drag. But you cannot deny the value. You mastered these tracks inside and out. And the content, 12 tracks, each with a reverse version that often completely changes the feel. 8 teams with different racing crafts, each with unique handling characteristics. Multiple game modes, including the frantic Eliminator. This UMD was packed. But the soul is in the sound. The soundtrack is a perfectly curated time capsule of mid-2000s electronica. It's not just background music, it's the heartbeat of the game, syncing with the high-speed action to create an indescribably good flow state. And that iconic, calm British computer voice, "Warning, missile," is pure audio comfort food for the series veterans. And then there was the killer feature, custom soundtracks. You could load your own MP3s onto a memory stick duo and race to your own personal OST. This wasn't just a bullet point on the box, it was a feature that gave the game a deeply personal, endless replayability. It connected the future in the game to the music of your present. I remember loading my favorite tracks from The Prodigy and reveling in the speed while being propelled forward by those pounding beats. Yeah, 2007 was good. So where does Pulse sit in the WipEout pantheon? I argue it sits at the top. WipEout Pure was a back-to-basics reset. It was brilliant, but it was laying a foundation. Pulse is what they built on that foundation, a stronger, more polished, more complete vision. The games that follow, like the beautiful WipEout HD and Fury on the PS3, are essentially direct evolutions of the Pulse formula, its physics, its track designs, its UI philosophy. And when you play the Omega Collection, remember, you're playing the spiritual successor to WipEout Pulse. But here's the crux of my argument. Pulse might be the zenith because of its constraints. The PSP's limitations forced a focus and purity of design. Later games might have had more power, but did they have more soul? Did they have that perfect intensity? Playing Pulse today, you can't help but feel the what if? What if Studio Liverpool had been given a chance to make one final, definitive WipEout with a modern budget, but with the same design philosophy that made Pulse so special? A 4K, HDR 120 FPS version of this. The core gameplay is so rock solid, it would almost need no changes. So, the final verdict 18 years on? WipEout Pulse is more than a nostalgia trip. It's a genuine masterpiece of game design. It's a technical showcase that transcends its hardware, a content-rich package that respects your intelligence, and a sensory experience that delivers a focused, immersive escape from the modern world. It's the PSP's best racer, and arguably, the most perfectly realized WipEout ever made. It's a preserved piece of gaming magic that proves that true greatness isn't about having the most power, but about having the most vision. But what do you think? Was Pulse your peak WipEout experience? Or do you hold a torch for the raw challenge of the original, or the slick sheen of HD? Let's get a proper, respectful debate going in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take. Alright everyone, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.